Welcome, folks. Thanks for attending. My name is Joe Muccioli. I'm the Artistic Director for the Jazz Arts Project, nonprofit organization, which for almost 15 years has been presenting and honoring jazz with world-class concerts and high-level education programs. I'm going to introduce our guests in just a minute, but first things first. Thank you to all our donors and supporters and sponsors. Our platinum presenting partner is Ocean First Bank, with support from Monmouth Arts and from you, our supporting members. So a heartfelt thank you, thank you, thank you. In the before time, way back in 2019 BC, that's before COVID, we presented an entire season celebrating women of jazz then and now. This is a topic that is clearly not celebrated enough. From our Talkin' Jazz series in April to our Summer Jazz Cafe that year, we focused on the wonderful contributions that women brought to the art form over more than a century of historic performances and recordings. And of course, we presented some of the world-class women artists active in today's jazz scene. As musicologist and author Sherrie Tucker said, women have participated in every instrument, in every style, and in every era of jazz history. Yet, with the notable exception of singers and a number of pianists, female jazz musicians have been continuously overlooked in the most prestigious areas of jazz practice, marketing, and documentation. Of course, when we think of women in jazz, there's always Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, Betty Carter. They come to mind, but there were and are so many others. Here are just some of them of note. Didn't quite get that? Here it is again. Pay attention this time. Seriously though, in the early 1920s, the songs and fame of Lil Hardin Armstrong and Bessie Smith encouraged women to pursue careers in the pop music of the day. From then on, more women instrumentalists began to appear, and later, during World War II, when many male jazz musicians were drafted into the military, several all-women jazz bands became popular. Of course, when the men returned after the war, all of the women were let go. In the iconic Art Kane photograph from 1958 for Esquire magazine, that has come to be known as A Great Day in Harlem. 50-some-odd jazz musicians were gathered for a photograph which documented many of the best purveyors of this music at the time. 50-some-odd men, and I count only 3 women: Marion McPartland, Maxine Sullivan, and Mary Lou Williams. Today, as colleges and universities have embraced music education with whole departments dedicated to jazz, opportunities for women jazz players are on the rise. There are, of course, several women who have shattered boundaries and persevered with a career that no one could ever question, such as our guest tonight. From the drum set, Sherrie Maricle leads the Diva Jazz Orchestra, her quintet 5-play, the Diva Jazz Trio, and co-leads the 3 Divas. From Carnegie Hall, she performs with the New York Pops, and from celebrated stages everywhere, she is music director and drummer for Broadway star Maurice Hines. With her bands, Sherrie has performed at many of the world's most acclaimed music venues and festivals, from Lincoln Center to the Kennedy Center and the Hollywood Bowl, to jazz festivals in Germany, Switzerland, France, Portugal, Ireland, England, Croatia, Japan, Vietnam, and Israel, and beyond. In addition to numerous features in televised broadcasts of award ceremonies, soundtracks, and specials, Her largest ensemble, the Diva Jazz Orchestra, made up of 15 outstanding musicians who all just happened to be women, co-stars in the award-winning documentary film, The Girls in the Band. Sherrie has received several awards and honors, which include the Ovation Award for Best Music Direction in Tappin' Through Life, the Mary Lou Williams Kennedy Center Lifetime Achievement Award, a State Department grant to tour Vietnam with her Group 5 play, the Kennedy Center Alliance Award for Outstanding Achievements in the Arts, a grant from Meet the Composers, a doctoral fellowship from New York University, the New York City Music Educators Award for Outstanding Contributions to Education, and was twice selected as New York City University's Music Teacher of the Year. We were thrilled to have her group perform last year at the Summer Jazz Cafe, and we hope to have her again in the safer and saner future. Folks, please welcome Sherrie Maricle.
Welcome, Sherrie.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Sherrie.
Hey, Joe.
How are you?
Wow. Good. What a fabulous intro.
Well, there's a bunch of technical issues, apparently. That usually doesn't happen that awkwardly. So I apologize for that.
I like your cartoon, though. That was really good, all the animation.
It's okay. We can Mercury is retrograde. We'll just blame it on that, right?
You know, we started week one. We started with like virtually nothing, not knowing what the heck to do, doing the kind of thing. And by now it's number 25, and we still basically don't know what to do.
You can never trust the internet. Something's always going to go wrong, even if you have it all set up perfect.
Yeah, that is true. We've
Like
learned
jazz.
that. Yeah. We learned that this summer when we did a summer music camp for middle school kids. And we had 6 weeks of this camp, and every day something else went wrong. What are you going to do? While I'm at it, let me try and fix my camera here. Talk amongst yourselves for a second, will you?
Well, I'm really grateful for for having Zoom, as much as I would be normally resistant. I'm so grateful we have this to stay in touch with each other and share music in some way.
You know what? That conversation came up last week. We were talking to Paul Jost. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah.
And one of them said, somebody said, I forget who it was, maybe it wasn't him. Imagine if this happened even 10, 15 years ago. We wouldn't have had these Zoom and, for that matter, phones that we carry around, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, we are lucky that we can get through this.
Very, yeah. I'm very grateful, actually, thinking about it, like you said, BC. That's how I say too. Way back in the BC times.
Before COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I would have never imagined finding joy, even teaching some of my college students now in a small, tiny box on my computer screen, playing the drums. But we're so happy to, like I said, connect and share music in any way. So
there you go. There you go. And I noticed you did something with your band, because I threw that in the introduction, right? You did a what do they call it? Hollywood Squares kind of treatment.
Yeah, that was we were scheduled to do our new live recording at Dizzy's Club in New York last March, It was called all commissioned new music, and it was called Diva Swings Broadway. A whole bunch of traditional Broadway tunes, a couple of new ones, and obviously that got canceled, and we just wanted to put something out there, kind of a little teaser. Plus, I think everybody really can understand the meaning of that song in these times. The sound of music is what we all need. So that was an ordeal putting that together. My great friend, Barry sax player and arranger, she's a composer also, Lee Pilzer, said, I'll figure out how to do this. And she got iMovie Pro and figured out how to how to make the Hollywood squares. We all recorded separately to a click track, which if anybody has questions about that later, we can talk about that. But that's a very awkward and strange way to perform jazz music, is individually to a click track without playing with anybody else. But the end result was good.
Yeah.
So
I've done a few of those projects myself, and it is odd, if to say the least. It is very different than what we are used to. But on the other hand, as jazz musicians, I'm sure you're ready for anything. You're flexible, and we've all been learning a lot of new skills along the way.
Oh yeah,
because we have to.
Yep, that's for sure. Somebody was just asked me, and I forgot. I'm sorry, when I mentioned that I teach, I certainly teach private lessons. And now one of the benefits, again, of Zoom is suddenly it's opened up the whole world to you for people to connect and communicate that way. But I also teach at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow. And you don't have to...
now. I teach at my house, but...
Yeah, but you don't have to make the
I was
trip.
in Philly.
You don't have to make the trip, right?
Right.
At this point. But, yeah, like you said, whoever did that video for you, there's new things to learn out there. So we are all learning new things. I started dabbling in that, movie making also, as you can see from the intros.
Yeah.
And, what else are you going to do? Well, let's talk about your music.
Okay,
thanks. You have brought out some beautiful music. We've had you actually at our Summer Jazz Cafe. It was just last year.
Yeah, that was so fun. I was knocked out with the cabaret vibe in there and like a old school fun nightclub energy.
Yeah.
We loved it.
That's what we tried to do. That seems like it was 10 years ago.
I know, and all for such a worthy and wonderful cause too, for education, and it was a great honor to be part of it. Really fun.
Well, wow, thank you. It was an honor to have you, clearly. And you know what? When it becomes safe and sane again, we will do it again. We will have you back.
Terrific.
But you've been at this for quite a while, and you've done just about almost everything there is to do, I suppose, in the music business. Lots of stuff. And you've been your own band leader for all those years as well. And that's a different kind of animal,
it is.
In the industry.
Band leader years just are equivalent, especially big band leader, I think equivalent to dog years. So however old I am, that you can find out on Wikipedia, because I'm not going to tell you, just times 7. That's how old I feel. But no, I moved to New York City in 1985. My original goal after undergrad school, which I went to this Binghamton University, so remarkable school in the middle, the southern tier of New York State, right in the middle. And I was I'm going to go to New York and play jazz. And while I was making that plan, a great bassist named Michael Moore said to me, "Oh, I teach at this school, NYU. Why don't you check it out? They have a great graduate program." And I'm being totally honest with you guys. I had no idea what NYU was. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll check out, NYU. And so I went there and I got a scholarship to get my master's degree. Then they offered me a doctoral fellowship, as Joe mentioned. While I was there. So it ended up being a great way, not only living in Greenwich Village, about 3 blocks from the Blue Note, but also getting that fellowship, which was not in my plans at all. I didn't have to worry about my rent in New York City. And that's, again, I'm being totally honest, that's the reason I accepted the fellowship. Because I'm like, hey, all right, teaching fellow, it pays like $20,000 or something back then. And I didn't have to, I was just, I probably was motivated for the wrong reasons, but it ended up being a great thing for me. So
wow.
And sort of started.
What year was it?
85.
85. Wow.
Yep. And then the Diva Jazz Orchestra, which has been central to my career, began. We had an audition. Our first audition was in June of 1992. And so then through our founder, Stanley Kay, we started commissioning all of our music, which we still do to this day. And we had our first gig in March of 93. So we are, coming on 28 years of touring around the world with that band.
Yeah, there you
Knock
go.
on wood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I knew Stanley. I remember him fondly, for sure.
Yeah. Great guy. And for anybody who knows anything about show business / the music business, Stanley Kay was one of the icons of that business, the kind of guy that his word was his bond. You could trust him with anything about anything. And there's so few people like that these days. And he was just such a wonderful guy. He was a drummer, managed the Buddy Rich Band, played drums with Patti Page and Frankie Lane and Josephine Baker and a whole array of pop stars from the 50s. Just a wonderful man. And it was his idea to form the Diva Jazz Orchestra.
Wow, he did you a good service for sure.
Thank you.
Do you want to play something from that orchestra?
Sure.
Your choice. Melissa's standing ready to play it. I hope she doesn't have the issues that I have.
Well, I sent whatever link I sent over to you because I know we don't want to play like our 10-minute track, so I sent kind of a short one. If
right.
Melissa has it there, the Diva Jazz Orchestra track.
Give her whatever the name of it is. Is only one of the orchestra?
Yeah. I sent one.
Oh, I see it. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sherrie, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Sure. That one, you know, that recording was our big band's last recording that we did for MCG Jazz, Manchester Craftsmen's Guild, which is a magnificent performing concert hall and school in Pittsburgh, and also a great jazz record label. And that also features the great Claudio Roditi that we got to play with on. That's his last recording, great Brazilian trumpeter, and also Ken Poplawski is also playing on this recording, and it's really fun.
Claudio was a dear friend. Claudio was a dear friend.
Yeah,
we had him down here many times over the years.
One of the warmest, most brilliant souls of the music and Brazilian music and jazz, and we played his chart Bucket of that was Bucket of Blues, his chart Piccolo Blues, and also the brilliant A Felicidade, which is beautiful, and he's featured throughout the recording. So it's all guys can check it out. And there's also a lot of YouTube videos on Diva Jazz Orchestra's YouTube channel. If anybody wants to check it out, there's a
if you can put those links wherever people might be able to find your music or your website, or your YouTube channel, whatever, put them in the chat window, and we can put them up there.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, I think when I muted, this didn't happen. Did you guys hear this or not? You hear anything? Oh. Okay, well, back to the drawing board. Okay.
That was some extra applause that we had for you, Sherrie, since on Zoom everyone forgets to unmute.
Yeah. But you know, that recording too, one of the things that's just my personal preference is always to record live. So majority of Diva recordings and all of my other two bands too, the more live the better. Of course I've recorded in a studio many times, but there's nothing on earth that can replace the energy exchange between a live audience and musicians. It's so unique and amazing. So even if there's a few mistakes or whatever we call it, a fly in the ointment or whatever it might be, it doesn't matter, because you cannot replace that just high energy, like magical exchange that happens when you're performing live in the moment, that once in a lifetime, experience that you share with an audience. It's great. So
you said it, sister.
Yeah. I'm preaching to the choir.
Yeah. And that's what we're all missing, like this entire year.
Yes. And
we will get back to it, I promise. For sure.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Which leads me to what is next for you guys. I mean, I know you mentioned you have an album coming out.
We have my trio. I have that trio that you played is that clip, the trio clip we were playing, If I Only Had a Brain. That's a trio is actually the rhythm section from the Diva Jazz Orchestra with Noriko Ueda and Tomoko Ono, brilliant musicians. But there's another trio that was created from performing with Maurice Hines' show, Tapping Through Life, and that's called the 3D Jazz Trio. And we have 2 new CDs out this year. We have one called I Love to See You Smile. I think I sent you a clip from that. And also a brand new Christmas record that just came out officially October 16th. It seems crazy early to me, but that's what's happening with that. And we're doing a performance at if we're still permitted, at the Deer Head Inn, which is in the Delaware Water Gap, Pennsylvania, on December 20th, a live performance. And the next day, a live stream, December 19th at the Deer Head, December 20th, a live stream it's called Blue House Productions. And they're, that's like one of those 12 TV studio with 12 cameras and ultra great sound. So we'll be doing our CD release online if anybody wants to check it out.
That's terrific.
Swinging Christmas.
I did hear that the Deer Head had some shows already. So
they have. They started. Bill Charlap was their first performance. I don't know when it was. It was in the late spring, maybe, or early summer. But the New York Times actually did a big article about it. And we played there once when our other CD came out with my trio. And it was socially distanced, like perfect. I mean, they can fit at least 100 people in there, and they only had 25 inside, and that included the staff. So they're really taking all It's a high end ticket to get in there. I mean, it's not expensive, but they're really, there's not many seats.
That's something that we considered also, but the economic factors don't really work when you have a 100-seat venue and you can only sell 25 seats. Unless you're quadrupling the price of admission, it's a real problem economically, and we're only essentially keeping it alive to keep it alive because it's art, because it needs to be alive.
Yeah, and I'm sure everybody has heard that. Of course, everyone knows Broadway is closed till at least June. The New York Philharmonic and the Metropolitan Opera have canceled their seasons. The New York Pops, our Carnegie Hall season just got, all Carnegie Hall is closed till April, so that kind of cancels the New York Pops season as well.
Right. And you worked with the New York Pops.
I do, yeah. I played at the New York Pops since 1990. 30 years I've been in that orchestra.
There you go.
I started with the great Skitch Henderson. I don't know if anybody remembers the great Skitch Henderson, but what a great maestro and wonderful human. So,
sure.
As one of those stages, I don't know if anybody's been there. Well, you probably, maybe if you've been to a concert, but if you had the opportunity to play there. But I'm going to show you in my my video settings. Oh, that's not it. Let's see this video. Here, check it out. Here, now we can all go to Carnegie Hall. I have it somewhere.
Go for it. Here.
Yeah. There we go.
Wow.
There's
Nice.
Carnegie Hall, right?
Very
so you don't
nice.
have to practice. You just put it on your virtual screen.
Exactly right.
Just kidding. But yeah. So that every time I stepped on that stage, from the first moment, which was just it's like the when you're on the top of a roller coaster, just right before it goes down, when that adrenaline surge and like your heart goes up into your throat. That's how I feel when I play at Carnegie Hall.
I know. I've played there. I have played there several times, and it is an awesome experience. You're right.
It's awesome. Awesome's the perfect word. It's the genuine, true use of that word. It's awesome, and it's 2,800 seats. So when it's full, and then the New York Pops concerts always, for the most part, sell out. So when you look up and you see it's just 2,800, people enjoying this great symphonic pops orchestra, it's very exciting.
Right. How do you juggle all this, Sherrie? This orchestra, that orchestra, teaching university courses? That's what they want to know. It's a cliche, but it's all things that I really love. So I'm always inspired to work on. The performing live music is the deepest passion that speaks to my soul and jazz and big band since I was 11 years old and saw Buddy Rich. That's what made me want to play the drums and play jazz. I saw Buddy and his Killer Force Orchestra in Binghamton, New York in the 70s. And I was 11 and I ran home and I'm like, Mom, I don't know what jazz is. I have to play it, and I have to play in a big band, and I have to play the drums. And I didn't ever heard jazz before. It made the hair on my arms stand up when I heard that band. I was like, what? They didn't have WTF back in the 70s, but that's what I was thinking. You had to play drums because of Buddy.
Yeah.
Wow.
He walked out, his band was in it. It was called the Killer Force Orchestra. He was in a black t-shirt, and his band, they were all in tuxedos. And they came out, and that first note hit, and I was like in a wind tunnel, just like pushed. I was like, oh my God, like what is this sound? Because I grew up listening to Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, Irish folk music, because that was my mom's jam. I love that music now too, but I grew up with that. So to hear that Buddy Rich, and I feel so blessed because that I had never had to think about what I was going to do when I grew up. Never 1 second. And I'm telling this honest to God truth. When I was like, that's it for me. And that was it. And I never had to worry. I mean, I had to worry after I decided I'm going to be a jazz drummer for a living. Then I started to worry.
That's right. That's right. But that is true. That people who end up enmeshed in this music, there's no question when they're deciding what they're going to do with the rest of their life. You're just directed. You're focused in on that's what it's going to be, and then we'll figure out how the hell to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. When I was when I was a kid, one of the great things, and anybody that's watching, if I see some young people maybe or not, we've all had mentors in our lives, whether it's for a personal situation or a direct teacher or mentor. And Stanley Kay was certainly that for me. And many of my great teachers include Mel Lewis, who I revere and idolize.
There you go.
Great Jeff Hamilton, who is one of my all-time favorite drummers. And when I was in Binghamton, I worked and was mentored by Slam Stewart, the one-of-a-kind genius Slam Stewart. If you don't know Slam, everybody, he he was an incredibly gifted jazz bass player, and I don't know, he started it, but he's credited with singing and scatting at the same time. So when he improvised on the bass, upright bass, and he had gut strings, he bowed all of his solos, arco, like Paul Chambers is probably the most famous bassist that did that. But Slam did it, and he sang everything he played one octave higher. Amazing, amazing player, and you can hear him easily on the Smithsonian Collection of Classic Jazz. Him and Don Byas playing a duo at Carnegie Hall on rhythm changes, like, fast. And it's just a duo, and it goes on forever, and it's so awesome. And Slam told me that they had to do that because at the break, the rest of the band went out to get high, and only Slam and Don Byas came back for the second half on time. So the guy made him go out there and start. So they did rhythm changes, and so that being mentored by him, and then having these great teachers, Adam Nussbaum, if anybody knows him.
I do know. I worked with Adam. Sure.
So great, amazing drummer. And then my my doctorate's in jazz composition and performance, but I had great arranging teacher. Tom Boris was his name at NYU.
Wow. Sure.
Used to play Jersey guy, played Barry Sachs in Jerry Mulligan's band. He called it rhythm baritone. And Jim McNeely, also Jersey or former Jersey guy, studied with him too. So I studied with Joe Lovano for a semester, saxophone. So I would just play duo with him. Just so many great people, and so many other people too. When you talk about your teachers and mentors, it's just, there's an endless list of people who helped me, and I certainly in my career now really want to. I call it not pay it forward. I call it swing it forward. Trying to help, young people.
That's fantastic. Hey, Carmen, why don't you come on and ask that and talk a little bit? Carmen is our development director, and I have to congratulate him because yesterday he successfully, I assume, because you're still here,
yes,
completed a marathon.
Yeah, I did the virtual New York City Marathon yesterday. It was, thank you. It was scheduled to be a real marathon in New York City, but as we're all dealing with COVID, it was canceled. But you could do it on your phone, and they track it, and you send it into headquarters, and they'll send me a medal. So when I get my medal, I'll bring it and share it with you guys.
I did my marathon too. I had my phone in my hand, and I ran from my bed in the morning to the bathroom. That was my marathon. But congratulations!
Thank you.
It's fantastic effort.
And it actually kind of connects with my question. I actually started running at 43. I'm 51 now, so I've been running for a little while. But interesting, my thing is, one of the reasons why I run is because I'm not supposed to be running in my mind. There's a part of me that thinks, not thinks, but, am I too old to run, or should I be doing this, and so forth. I would tell my doctor that I'm running, and he would always say, well, what about your knees, and so forth like that. And so I wanted to ask about your experience, knowing what you want to do at 11 and going for it and living your life full of passion, because I must say, I came in a little bit late, forgive me, but your energy is contagious. I can totally feel your energy. I'm like, wow, this woman is electric. And then I went online, and of course, I looked up your age, and I'm like, she's like, basically you made it sound as if you were older than what you really are. And I'm like, well, she's not, she's my age. What's going on here?
I'm an AARP.
But I'd be curious in terms of what your philosophy on life is based on your experience, because I mean, people who go into the arts, some people are discouraged to go into the arts. It's not a safe career. It's full of, challenges and whatnot. But you seem to have had a wonderful career and are still having a great career and doing what you love. And I was just wondering, how does that impact how you see things and what you share with people?
That's an excellent question. And it's something that that evolves with years and years of experience. It's not like my 20-something-year-old self would never believe this if I was telling that to her. And maybe a lot of young people will listen and say, "Oh, I understand." And it's always hindsight. You can't really get it until you live through it. But I once asked the great Maurice Hines, who Joe mentioned I still work with. If anybody doesn't know him, he's Gregory Hines' older brother. And Gregory Hines, the great dancer. And Maurice is an exquisite tap dancer and entertainer. And he walks out on stage, and I'm telling you guys, that guy puts one foot, and he opens his arms like this, and the audience is screaming, and he doesn't even do anything yet. It's because his charisma and the way that he loves performing, and he goes out there, and this is what he said to me, because I asked him, I said, Maurice, how does that happen? How do you go out there and people are like screaming their lungs out, you know? And he said, because he goes, hey baby, I tell them the truth, baby. That's what he always says. He goes, don't try to lie to your audiences. They're going to catch up to you. They're going to know. Go tell the truth. And then for a long number, I've been playing with Maurice since the early 90s as well. I didn't really get it. I'm like, oh, tell the truth. Yeah, okay, I get it. But as I evolved in my own career, just, you know, trying to, especially as a freelance, I have my own bands, but I freelance with many groups too, and deciding to, and saying, oh my God, and now I have to play Afro-Cuban music. Now I need to, and really play it. Now I have to be a funk drummer. Am I a rock drummer now? And I've had all these variety of gigs. When I finally stopped trying to make my brain explode to try to be everything and said, wait a second, what is the best thing I have to offer? And really, what is the best thing I have to offer? That's not bullshit. Sorry, but you know, that's just the real, like, what is the best I have? And then just focused on offering that, I feel a lot more at peace. And that's only with myself instead of not with the mental struggles I'm sure we all have. All of my artist friends and colleagues, from being on panels with the great, you know, wildly gifted Maria Schneider, who I was on a panel with last year, or maybe 2 years ago at Jazz Congress, and hearing her speak, and just every great artist I've worked with has similar experiences, and talking about that, you know, I'm going to quote Maria as she said, you know, dealing with sometimes crippling self-doubt when you present yourself or when you present your music as a composer. And how do you develop the confidence? And one of it, like you said, Carmen, it starts with passion. Like, in Stanley Kay, my mentor used to say, you have to love something. You can't like it. Like, jazz is my friend, I casually like it. You know, you have to love it, because somebody mentioned the word safe. It's not really I wouldn't say safe is the career as a good word to describe a jazz artist, or any artist actually. But the adventure of it, if you love it, it's addictive. And Stanley used to always say, he goes, you know, we're in that career that one phone call and your whole life changes. Mm-hmm. Hello, Sherrie, would you like to tour with Tapping Through Life with Maurice Hines for 5 years all around the country? What? Change. You know, like, right. Sherrie, would you like to play with the New York Pops? Who knew that I was going to get to play for 30 years with one of the greatest orchestras at Carnegie Hall? It's amazing. The opportunities, you know, pop up all over the place. And it's just, you know, so through all of that, my distilled information is everybody in every field, just give the absolute best of yourself. And you know, sometimes we're doing things maybe we don't like, but at least for musicians, if you're a professional musician, and let's say you don't love the music, but you love being a professional musician, you go to every situation with the great attitude, with the idea that I'm going to play this music so great, like to the best of my ability, with a great attitude. Because, man, what's luckier than getting paid? My first gig, I couldn't even believe I got paid to play music. I could not believe it. Yeah. I had a gig, as a teenager, working at the giant supermarket as a cashier, making $2.35 an hour. Maybe it was less. I don't know. I worked 20 hours a week, and I would come home with like $43. My first gig was with a band called Bob Grover and the Tune Twisters, kind of a polka country band, at like an Elks Club. Yeah. I got $100. This is in, I don't know, like 1982 or something. $100. Wow. That's still how much gigs still pay $100.
Right.
I can't tell you what that $100 in cash when I was working 20 hours was something that I did not like, and therefore I was probably not good at it. And that was another light bulb moment. I was staring at this massive pile of money when I was a teenager, like, wow.
Well, that's great. Now, have you kept notes or anything? I mean, have you a book or anything in your future, or any notes, memoir?
I can write some funny stories. I'll tell you one of my greatest learning experiences, though. To this point, when I learned this, and everybody, hopefully, you have somebody like this in your life that will tell you when you're not being cool. So I was in this wedding band, playing tons of parties, 3 or 4 gigs a week. We were making a lot of money. Like $300 a gig. That's a lot of money in the 80s. And I started studying jazz, and I was like real snooty, and I was like, the only word I can think of, I was being an a-hole. I was like, oh, Miles Davis, and Coltrane, and I was all like looking down on playing Elvis Presley tunes and Kool and the Gang, and I was making all this money, and I had a really terrible attitude. And the guitar player wrote me a really long, very thoughtful letter, like 7 pages, that I think my mother still has. And it told me that I was being a horrible, horrible bandmate and a jackass, and knock it off. And and it was so spot on. Wow. That hit me so hard, like, oh my God, why am I being like this? And the end of his letter to me was, and if you don't knock it off, somebody should lock you in a closet and force you to listen to Willie Nelson music or Elvis Presley music for 5 hours nonstop.
Oh, wow.
I learned my lesson. You guys, that was so important to me, that he did that. They could have just fired me. They said, oh, well, she's a total drag. Let's get rid of her. Mm-hmm. But they didn't. And I really learned that. So always come with the right attitude, with the purpose of playing the music to the best of your ability, and try to make the band sound great.
Wow.
Big lesson to me. I'm grateful to that guitar player.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That was amazing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks to that guitar player. I wonder it's funny because you don't have that energy now. I wonder what it would have been like to be around that person.
I don't know. I mean, in my mind, I probably didn't think I was being snooty, but like I sort of remember like the piano player and a couple other people in the band didn't really read music. They learned by rote, so here's stupid me not realizing, well, that's how most jazz was taught when it was being, discovered or found. Jazz music is an oral art form. That's the best way to teach it. So we'd rehearse Elvis tunes and, like I said, like some disco tunes. And I probably wasn't vocal about it, but I'm sure I was like eye rolling, oh my God, we have to play this again. It's not enough that I have to play Celebration 80 times a weekend. I didn't want to rehearse it. So I probably that was the vibe.
Well, you're mentioning a lot of the music that was the background of my childhood there. So it's really funny.
I love it. Now I love disco. I love music of this. I grew up really in the 70s is like some of my favorite music.
So I want to ask a question that Bill asked real quickly. He mentioned here, you've mentioned many males who helped you. Have there been female helpers too? And he wants to know, did you ever experience gender-based discrimination, especially as a drummer?
The first woman that I ever, there wasn't, none of my teachers informed me of any women to check out. That's why, Joe, I'm so glad you put on the Girls in the Band logo. If anybody hasn't seen that film, it's a documentary on women instrumentalists. It's not, because most people think of women in jazz and they think of all the great vocalists. This is exclusively about instrumentalists. And in fact, this is not the first woman, but I saw that at the International Women's Brass Conference, Clora Bryant, whose picture you showed, was a great trumpeter. And they played video clips of her, and she was there. If you guys check out Clora Bryant, when I saw her perform, I burst into tears. This was in the mid-90s, I think. Burst into tears because I was like, how is it possible that I do not know who this woman is? She's like if Dizzy Gillespie and Louis Armstrong had a baby, it would be Clora Bryant. The way she played the trumpet, she swung her ass off. She recently passed. Here, and she could, bebop, she sang, she had great chops, her energy and vibe was amazing. I literally started crying because it dawned on me, wow, women, like you mentioned, are typically left out of jazz history because their contributions were so marginalized and minimalized, just like minimized and not counted as significant. But there are many, like women in every field that's male dominated, and probably men in fields that are dominated by women don't necessarily get the acknowledgement. So that was a big moment for me. And then flash forward in New York, I met a Maurice Hines manager who worked for was it Columbia? William Morris, one of the biggest entertainment bookers of all, like famous actors and stuff. Her name was Susan Weaving. And I watched her interact in the music business as a booking agent and what she did. And I was like, damn, I want to be like that woman. Like she was so, I guess, I feel even almost foolish saying this, but this is, 30 years ago or whatever. Just her energy, her focus, the way she spoke to everybody was just, it's kind of the opposite of what women are taught many ways, and how we're socialized is so different than men are sometimes. It's like you know, even I can hear my mom sometimes, not quite this bad, but just let the boys win. Let the boys score the basket or whatever it is, you know, and that's how women in my generation, as a young girl, it's kind of the vibe you grow up with. She had none of that. And I had another good friend at the same time who was a book editor who was very similar, and I saw them interacting a lot, and I was like, man, I want to have that, you know, like no, oh, what if, but what if they think this or they think that, or I can't be too aggressive or people will think I'm a bitch, you know, kind of the stuff that goes on, you know, even today in politics, you can hear people speaking about, you know, male and female politicians and da 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 da. So those women, and there was music business oriented women. And then now that, especially since the Me Too movement, so many women are feeling so much more empowered and free just to speak their mind, like I'm going to say like a normal person, or like interacting, you know, just as professionals in their field, devoid of gender, which is the way it should be when you're talking about music. And the great Viola Smith, nobody knows her. She just died. She was 107. She was one of the first women drummers really recognized. She was Viola Smith's the fastest girl drummer was one of her monikers, but she's on YouTube. There's many interviews with her, and just talking with her and hanging out with her a little bit was really inspirational.
It sounds like sounds like that you have a book in there with,
right? I hear
your
it.
knowledge and your connection to it personally.
I want to tell you about one of the real. I mean, of course, there's you know, gender bias all over the place. And you know, things that have happened over the years, but one really blatant was I got hired when I still lived in Binghamton to play with the great comedian Rodney Dangerfield, who I idolized, by the way, idolized him. If anybody, you guys don't know him, he was the rich guy in the movie Caddyshack. If anybody saw that, he was the obnoxious rich guy. Anyway, so we need a trio for Rodney's performance. So I show up and his manager runs out and like this, no. We're not having you. Rodney's not having any women in the band, or girl. He didn't call me a woman. He said, we're not having any girls in the band. Rodney, you know, he swears and he does this and that. And I was like, oh, well, would you like me to swear? Because I know all the words. So, anyway, long story short, the musicians union boycotted that performance. So they just hired non-union musicians. And there you have it. And it was, you know, it was just one of those weird, I mean, there's no way that anybody could get away with that today. I mean, because he outwardly they could say, he never heard me play, so he didn't know if I could play or not. But it was just basically, no, we don't want you. You're a woman. Like, I don't think you could do that today without getting sued.
Yeah. You know, with comedians, it could be partially. I know that I've worked with comedians, and they like to have a band behind them that they can, you know, bounce off of. And an act like Rodney's probably was pretty nasty, and he didn't want to have to, you know, like couch his act because there's a woman in the band. Yeah, man, but then I played with Don Rickles more than once, and he, oh my God, it was so funny. He would like, he was talking around, he turns around, he sees me. He did this in rehearsal too, but he goes, how the hell I'm quoting him, how the hell did goddamn Broad get in the band? And he shot the mic down. It was really funny. And then he went on and just made fun of me. It was awesome, you know, because it was funny. It was funny humor. So yeah, he took it and ran with it, whatever the situation was for him. And he was really nice to the band, and he always bought he bought the band a case of beer. Great idea. He's a good guy.
Well, I want to just say I'm enjoying your energy and your stories, and you know, one thing that music is, it's universal. It's a universal language, and you've expressed it clearly that music should be void of you know, looking at gender and race and so forth like that. I mean, it can look at those things, but it incorporates it into the music, and so. I just want to say that, you know, working with Jazz Arts Project, we've had a wonderful time. I think we're going into the second season of Mondays with Mooch, because we're about 26 or 27 episodes in.
Wow,
and want to say that it's been wonderful connecting with our audience every week. And we want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. And as we've been saying, we are coming back. This situation is not permanent, but we can use your support to help us continue our programming. And so if you want to check us out at www.jazzartsproject.org/donate, please make your contribution there. We accept it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, any time of the year. You can check us out online and share what you can. No dollar is too big or too small. We accept all size donations, so we really appreciate that. And Sherrie, just a real joy to hang out with you, and you got to come back and hang out with us some more.
I would like to, and I if anybody has any questions, you can follow up, and you can find us on me on my website, just my name.com, and or divajazz.com. I put it in the chat, and there's links to all of our YouTube channels. There's lots and lots of videos on there if anybody's interested. And
well, there's a lot of stuff for you online there. I looked online. You got your name pulls up quite a bit of links there.
Yeah, longevity. And Carmen, just to go with what you said, I mean, Stanley K, I keep mentioning, he's passed away 10 years ago, but I love him so much. And he used to say, you can't hear gender, I mean, whether you think you can or you really can't. And you know, same with race and religion and everything else. I mean, you might, especially in jazz is a universal language. I've been everywhere from Dubai to Bogota, Colombia, to all over Western Europe. You can just like hum a couple bars to Take the A Train, and everybody's like, oh, it is a universal language. So
I just looked up, is it Viola? What's her last name? I just looked her up.
Viola Smith.
Viola Smith. I just looked her up, and I look forward to learning more about her. I never heard of her till tonight, and she's got some great photos of the early the 50s. She's got her trumpet there and looks really fabulous. So I look forward to checking that out.
Oh yeah, that's Clara Bryant, maybe.
Clara Bryant. The Clara Bryant. That's what I have up here. Yes, Clara Bryant.
Yeah, check her out. But everybody here's it's not a trick, but I just love the expression. Like, just try to listen with your ears first, not your eyes. That's the MTV ruined the world. No kidding.
You got that right.
Listen with your ears, and then think what you will, but don't listen with your eyes.
So many years ago, when I was coming up, it was just as MTV was just getting started. And I remember people telling me that, it's going to, visual is going to matter so much more than music in the coming years, because there's going to be light shows and there's going to be, fireworks, and all these concerts are going to have, it's more about visual than the music. And I said, no, it'll never be. It could never be that. Music is always, I was like this naive kid. And I kept arguing that music will always be prime, and everything else is going to be secondary. And sure enough, like turned the whole industry around, at least pop wise.
Yeah. I think it's changed though. I think that era has passed a little bit. I mean, there's still the visual, but MTV is no longer what it once was. And I wanted to be a video director, so I know that videos aren't what they used to be. So I think it had its heyday. It had its real heyday. Don't get me wrong, but
right. Well, Sherrie, first of all, are there any other last-minute questions from anybody in the gallery or in the chat gallery?
Ellie,
we have Ellie's got a question.
Yeah, hi Sherrie. I was at the Jazz Cafe when you performed, and I was just wondering what inspired you to add a tap dancer to your performances?
I think Joe and I talked about, bringing someone in addition to the trio, which is fun. And we have worked with, I mentioned Maurice Hines in his show Tapping Through Life. And we started working with one of Maurice's proteges, actually two of them, John and Leo Manzari. If you guys want to check out the Manzari brothers, who are a youthful equivalent of the Nicholas brothers / the Hines brothers.
It's a great name, Manzari brothers.
Yeah, they're John and Leo Manzari, and they're just great tappers. And then John Manzari was going to come with us to the Jazz Cafe, but then he got trapped on another long-term extended performance. So we got one of his good buddies, Luke's not. Oh my gosh, Luke. Oh my God. Sorry.
It was Luke.
No, I know Luke, but I can't think of his last name. I keep thinking of Luke Spring, who was another great tap dancer, and it wasn't that. But anyway, just because that trio, the 3D Jazz Trio, has worked extensively with tap dancers, and it's when it's a great tapper, it's like having a horn player in the band. Just it's great. You can do all jazz standards, and the obviously being a drummer, I'm completely wildly obsessed with rhythm, and
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
I tell you, I'd still like to do that thing that we talked about, Sherrie, is maybe trying to get Maurice here with your band.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
some kind of like, big performance at maybe in the main hall over there at the theater.
Yeah, yeah. Maurice is extraordinary.
Does he still perform, or what is he doing now, Maurice?
Yeah. Yes, now we do his show in we were on that regional tour. It was about 4.5 years that we did across the United States, and now it's just like in one or two, like maybe three, like concert performances versus theatrical. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's great, and he's wow. He's such a, as I said, he's the consummate performer and entertainer. And there's something we did for PBS on something called the Kate TV, his whole show and kind of an interview show, but with a lot of performance with Diva and him and the Manzari brothers. The Kate TV, Maurice Hines, and that's Katharine Hepburn's network that's in Connecticut. But it's a PBS show. Now you can view that for free on their YouTube channel or on just if you just Google it, Maurice Hines, the Kate TV, it'll pop right up.
And I saw that a documentary came out too about him. Were you at all involved in the documentary?
Yeah, a little bit on the periphery. Yeah, sure. And the filmmaker did a lot of deep digging. It's very historical about the Hines brothers and little Hines kids. They started tapping when Maurice was 5 and Gregory was 3.
Wow.
And they were, did a lot of that little kiddie talent shows, and then got discovered here and there, and just, extraordinary. But that's and when you think about the great tapping brothers, of course, the first and quintessential, Nicholas brothers, unbelievable. Then came the Hines brothers, and then kind of now the Manzari brothers. It's kind of a beautiful sequence. And the Nicholas brothers mentored Maurice and Gregory, and Maurice mentored John and Leo. Wow. It's great shared art form, just like jazz.
Yep, exactly right.
Excellent.
Well, it has been lovely to have you here, and thank you so much for doing this.
I feel like we just started. It was so fun.
I know.
Great fun.
On that note, what is our tradition here is we officially end the proceedings, and we turn off the recording, and we turn off the Facebook feed, and we have an after gig hang. So anybody who wishes to hang a little bit more, we can chat and have a little like closure in our pandemic episodes here, or what have you. But before that, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Jacqueline, Carmen, Melissa, for your help on these Zoom calls. Thank you, folks, for. I know it was a little late this week getting the word out, so thanks for showing up as an audience member. And, please come back again next week. I'm working on something really interesting that I'm not at liberty to divulge at the moment, but I should have a really amazing guest either this week or in a couple of weeks. So keep a lookout for that. And thanks again so much for coming. And thank you, Sherrie.
Thank you. It's great.
And I don't have a closing video or theme song yet. I'm working on that. So here you go. I'm officially shutting down the official proceedings. Thanks once more, and see you all next week.
Stay warm.
Yeah.
It's cold out there tonight.
Well,